gathered here.
There you go. Well, hello everyone. Dr. David Ajibade here, and this is our Wednesday weekly webinar. And tonight we'll be talking about the cardiovascular system. The title is "The Heart of the Matter," and we're playing on words a little bit. But we're going to do a quick recap. Last week we talked about the brain, and we talked about how important it is to look at the brain or issues concerning the brain, not just from one aspect, which of course is the brain, but we also have to look at the immune system. We have to look at the digestive system. We got to look at the endocrine system because your hormones also affect the function of your brain. And we also have to look at the cardiovascular system. So after speaking with Jan about this, we said, okay, well, let's go to the cardiovascular system next, because I mean, if you think about it, and I'm going to get to this as we go along, but you can have the best nutrients in the world. You can have the top of the line products, but if those nutrients aren't going to where they need to get to, if for that matter, if oxygen is not getting to the brain or where oxygen needs to get to, and that's every cell of your body, you're not going to be living for too long. Probably not going to be living well. And the cardiovascular system, the heart and the blood vessels are what help to bring oxygen and nutrients to every cell in your body, especially your brain. So there's no way you're going to enjoy or have good brain health if you're not having sufficient cardiovascular health. And what we know is that as you grow older, blood flow to your brain and to different parts of your brain diminishes. Yes, I know. Going old sucks. I'm experiencing it myself too. And things that we used to do before that we used to enjoy, no longer do I enjoy them anymore like we should. Even healing. I mean, I play competitive racquetball. I was state champion in racquetball in Oklahoma for a few years. And I mean, when we had injuries, we would maybe a few weeks we'll be out of commission. And then we would bounce back and then get back to playing. But these days that doesn't happen anymore. Now these days it's like complete. You're out of commission for 6 months to a year when you have an injury, and I'm like, oh gosh, oh for those days when we would still be young again. So circulation, the cardiovascular system is what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to be pointing to one major aspect. If you can get that aspect right, when it comes to blood flow, you would go a long way towards improving overall health. So we're just going to go into that in a short while. I'm going to pull up my slides, and then we'll get right into it. Hang on just a minute. I always forget to kind of like show how this thing, let's see if I get this right now. Share screen, there you go. Please feel free to ask your questions. And then we'll get to them at the end. So let me know, can we all see the screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Thumbs up. Is that a thumbs up? Lucia, let me have a thumbs up. You're the only one I can see right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Again, this is not to replace your doctor's expert advice. Your doctor has your records. He knows you. He has examined you. What we're doing here, and that's one reason why we don't talk about drugs at all, because we're not trying to replace your medical advice from the doctor. We're talking about supplements, things on the other end, things that you can do to help to rebuild, regain, improve your health. Doctor primarily focuses on a disease or a disease condition, and he treats that disease condition. We're not treating any disease condition. What we're doing is that we're focused on the things that rebuild, restore the health of your cells, the health of your tissues, and the health of your organs, including your brain, which is probably the most, not probably, but I would say the most important organ. Then again, the heart is also important too. So let's get into it. So I want to do a quick recap. We talked about keeping your marbles last week, which of course basically is a play on words to say how important your memory is and how a healthy brain leads to a healthy memory. And we talked about what I call the central governing system. Central governing system are the three systems that control all the other 9 or 10 systems in the body: your nervous system, your endocrine system, your immune system, in that order. At the top is your nervous system. Now I put above this is the hypothalamus, which we just is a part of the brain that controls the cardiovascular system, your temperature, your sleeping patterns, your wake patterns, your breathing, and so on and so forth. So this system right here is probably the most among the most basic parts of the brain, but basically is representing your nervous system. And above the nervous system is what we refer to as the mind or the emotions. That's a long discussion behind that. But of course, your personality, who you are, your thinking patterns, your emotions, all spring from the brain, obviously. And in turn, they affect your brain and your endocrine system and nervous system. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time here. If you're going to be healthy, if you're going to be able to maintain your brain health, maintain a good memory, be able to think and plan and enjoy life as a whole, your brain has to be healthy. And we talked about how the hormones are important, the immune system. Many times we tend not to look at the immune system as important, but the immune system certainly plays a huge role in your brain or in brain function. And of course, blood flow, which we're going to get into some more, your digestive system. Think about it. If the nutrients, the raw materials that help to rebuild, to keep your brain healthy, come as nutrients, you have to eat them. Almost everything that your brain needs has to come in through your mouth and your digestive system. The digestive system has to be healthy enough to break down the fats, the hamburgers, the rice, whatever it is, into the small bits that can now be absorbed into the blood system, into the bloodstream, and taken to the brain and to everywhere else, where they can now be used for different things: repair of damaged cells, metabolism, removal of waste products, protection against damage by bacteria, and all those things. Everything comes through your digestive system. So your digestive system has to be healthy. There are other reasons why your digestive system has to be healthy, which we're not going to get into much here. We talked about the good bugs in your digestive system. Very important. That's probably going to be another discussion altogether. But once the food is digested and absorbed into the bloodstream, the body has to, the circulatory system has to be healthy enough to take these raw materials to wherever they need to go to, including the brain. But so I put this here to say, no nutrients, no health. No nutrients, no repair. No nutrients, no rebuilding or replacing of cells and tissues. There's no regulation of your hormones. There's no metabolism, no protection. There's really nothing. So you have to have the right nutrients. But I know I'm emphasizing this a lot because I really want people to grasp this. You cannot take your circulatory system for granted. So if there's no blood flow, or if the blood flow is inadequate, well, it's gone. Yeah, even if you put you eat the best nutrients ever, if the blood flow is not the way it should, then there's going to be problems. So let's talk about the cardiovascular system. And you can see in front of you, you have a picture of all the different, the top causes of death in the world, and they're all represented by the size of the circle. And you can see right at the top, the yellow circle is the largest circle, represent the heart and circulatory disorders. So heart attacks, atrial fibrillation, strokes. What else? Heart attacks and strokes are the top killers anyway. So, and there are others as well. But it shows just how important the circulatory system is. That's why the top causes of death worldwide are due to failures in circulation. That's why it's so important we talk about it. And I mentioned earlier that I used to be a racquetball player. Now I'm playing squash because in Nigeria we don't have racquetball, so I had to switch back to squash. When about 15 years ago, even though I was really fit, I was much slimmer than what I am now. My BMI, my fat percentage was like less than 7.4, and I think the average is about 15. If you're obese, yes, it's about 30. When I was like 7.4, I remember the coach when he measured me, he was really shocked at how little fat I had. My blood pressure was 110/70, perfect. I had no health issues whatsoever. However, once in a while, I would have, without any exertion at all, once in a while, I'll just have this tightness in my chest. And for the life of me, that was scary because I was like, yeah, this has to do with the cardiovascular system. It was quite scary, but I just kind of like brushed it off. But it was a problem. Eventually, I found out that obviously I knew what had to do with circulation. And again, another thing that I noticed, I'll wake up in the morning and my first few steps from getting out of bed would be painful. And my feet weren't necessarily swollen, but they were like pins and needles. I knew too that had to do with circulation. So that's way back then. I started looking for things that would help to improve my circulation. And I'm going to tell you about what I found out and something that maybe you can avail yourself of. But circulation is super, super important. I remember even when we used to play racquetball in the gym, the locker room, this older guy, I remember this particular case. My point is that circulation has to do with everything, even your eyesight. This older, he couldn't be less than 70. He would come in, one day he came in from working out and he goes to the locker and he turns the combination lock and he basically blurts out his say a few things that people say in the locker room talk. And he's like, this is crazy that before I came in here, I couldn't see these numbers on this combination lock. I go out, I go upstairs, I work out, I come back and you can see the numbers clearly. What happens? The working out improves his circulation. It helps get nutrients around and help the body metabolize those nutrients, helps his eyes work better. And so his eyes are getting more oxygen, his eyes are getting more nutrients, and therefore they can see those combination locks even better. So circulation is super important. I have this diagram of these pictures of these, a picture of how the circulation, everywhere there's a cell, you're going to find the circulation, the blood vessels reaching there to supply oxygen and nutrients. So it's super important. And I'm pointing to this. This is what a healthy artery, a healthy blood vessel looks like. The arteries have to be clear and they have to let blood flow through them. If they start getting let me see, I'm trying to put it back here. If they start getting buildups like you're going to see here, you see buildup here, and then you see the buildup is getting worse. And this happens to everybody, quite frankly. Most people have some degree of buildup. You can have about 70%, believe it or not, blockage of the blood vessels, and you won't feel a thing. You can have 70% blockage of this artery right here, you won't feel a thing. But that remaining 30% can just happen, just get blocked all of a sudden, and then of course you have problems. So is it possible? And I probably getting ahead of myself here, but so let's just stick with this. So this is what a normal blood vessel looks like. It should be. I hope this makes sense. This blood flows through here, and it should be clear, and there should be smooth flow of blood. Now, things begin to happen, things like inflammation, and that cause the buildup. You find these things like cholesterol, things like calcium, and other things that you don't want building up inside the blood vessels. You don't want that happening. But it's not just that because you have a lot of cholesterol in your blood. It's if there's a defect, if there's what we now know as inflammation. This could be as a result of your diet. It could be as a result of your emotions. If you're under a lot of stress, there's blood vessels, the inner lining will be less likely to be smooth and it will now begin to have all kinds of inflammation around it. So we know that bad diets, emotions, lack of exercise, we'll get into that some more. Sitting down for long periods of time. Now, let me tell you guys, even if you exercise once a day, every day for every week, so 7 days a week, an hour each day, and you're sitting down a lot, even that can put you at risk for heart conditions. So it's very important that you address that. So I wanted to kind of like draw a picture now. So you think about it, okay, I hope you can see this picture. So if you think about a garden hose, right? So garden hose, you got this water comes in through the tap, and then the hose, water comes in and then it flows, and then you use this, and it is kind of like waters the plants, sprinkles water on the plants. It's important that that water is able to flow through. Now, many times as you grow, as this pipe gets older, as the hose goes older, holes begin to show up. Holes begin to pop up inside the lining of the hose over a period of time. It gets old and the cracks begin to show. And so water begins to come out of the cracks, okay? And then, of course, you want to replace the hose, get a new hose. Or sometimes it could be a kink in the pipe. And that means that water is not going to be able to get out into the flowers where they need it. That happens. We all know that happens. Well, in the same way, our blood vessels, so this is the heart here. And the heart pumps blood into the blood vessels. Of course, the heart needs blood itself. So some of that blood goes back to the heart. Some of that blood goes nextly to the brain, to the lungs, the kidneys, and so on. And of course, the blood vessels and so on. So in the same way that things could build up, debris could build up in the hose, in the water hose, debris also builds up, and we saw those pictures earlier. Debris can also build up in the lining of the blood vessels. We don't want that happening. But what happens is that once you have issues, the pipes, the arteries, they react. They're not inanimate objects like the hose over here. They react. Once there's damage or whatever it is or build up, the arteries begin to react. They want to get rid of that buildup as much as possible. So you have the immune system coming up, immune cells are coming, they're trying to clean it up. The problem is that if they don't have the right nutrients and the right resources and the right equipment and tools to clean that up, they tend to make matters worse. So that buildup, instead of them clearing up the buildup, they tend to make the buildup even worse. I know that doesn't make sense, but trust me, that's kind of like what happens. Sometimes the body is trying to fix things and it ends up making the matter worse than it should be. So our job, and this is what shocks me, right? Really, folks. I think this needs to be taught to everybody. Everybody needs to be able to understand what it takes to keep the cardiovascular system healthy, to keep these arteries, and it's the arteries we're talking about mostly, to keep them clean. I wish there was a way I could clean this. So I'm going to just draw another one here. So the goal is to get from this buildup here to having clean blood vessels. Now, if you go by what is standardly taught in medical schools, most people will say it's not possible. You just have to live with it. So they have to put in a stent, or they put in some way of artificially widening the blood vessels. We're not taught that there are things you can do to basically clean up these blood vessels and return them to what they were, maybe in your teens or your early 20s. So I'm going to show you some of the things that can be done. I think I've already talked about why blood flow is so important, but it matters in every single case. I mentioned about eyesight. One of the reasons why our eyesight is getting weaker is because blood flow to the eyes, especially the retina, is not like it should be. The reason why you're panting, you're not having, you're running out of breath, blood flow to the lungs may not be like what it used to be. You're not healing as quickly as you used to be from cuts or from bruises or from damage or from joints, elbow problems, knee problems. Blood flow, if you had adequate blood flow, you would find that those problems would heal a lot faster. And it can go, and it goes on and on and on and on. Blood flow is critical. We now know, even when it comes to, as I mentioned last week, sometimes memory is not the same like it should be. It's because blood flow to the brain hasn't stopped, but it is being gradually weakening or being compromised. And we showed you examples of how those things, that narrowing of the blood vessels can happen anywhere in the body, the brain, the heart, the lungs, and so on and so forth. Why does it happen here and not there? Not a topic for discussion at this point, but just so you know, blood flow is compromised everywhere. And if you have a chronic disease like diabetes, by the way, diabetes is one of the top, you have 2 times greater risk of stroke if you're diabetic, or even 3 times. Some say you have as much as 4 times greater risk of stroke if you're diabetic. Again, because there's a lot more damage to the blood vessels and there's a lot more buildup of debris and other cholesterol and other things in people who are diabetics than people who are not. And the same goes for things like, as I mentioned, hypertension, chronic hypertension, or chronic disease, even sickle cell disease. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. So, you know what we know is that with COVID-19, and of course, pretty much everything you're going to talk about now, you're going to talk about COVID-19 as well. We know that the majority of people who had major problems with COVID-19 already had problems with their heart and their blood vessels. So if your blood vessels were compromised, I know this is a really, really busy slide, but if your blood vessels were already compromised, maybe you had diabetes, you had cardiovascular disease, you had hypertension, uncontrolled, you are more, of course, if you're obese, it also affects your blood vessels as well. So you're more likely to have a more severe form of COVID-19 if your blood vessels, if your cardiovascular system is compromised. We also know that people who have pulmonary hypertension, that's another thing where blood is not flowing to the heart like it should, to the lungs like they should. And of course, sickle cell disease. I know I'm always going to work this in because a lot of what we're doing is to raise funding to help do research in Nigeria to help save lives of over 100,000 kids who are dying each year from the disease called sickle cell disease. What we know is that 50% of kids born with sickle cell disease will not reach their 5th birthday. That's close to 100,000, 50 to 75%. So this is why we're doing this. I'm always going to kind of like sneak that in once in a while. These kids are suffering. They don't have to suffer like they should because we now know there are simple solutions, and these solutions involve getting the right kind of nutrients to them. So how do we improve blood flow? Well, as you know, we always talk about what I refer to as the laws of life. There are about 7 different laws, health laws, that we are in control of, that we can influence, that affect our health, not just our health, but our happiness, our relationships, our jobs, our businesses, our vocations, everything in life. I like to bring them down to about 7 major categories. And it's kind of, to me, it's like a checklist. So I can say, okay, I can just go down the list and use that to answer different questions. So, for instance, blood flow. Obviously, not everything relates to blood flow here or relates directly. But the first thing I think about when I'm looking through what are the things that affect blood flow, obviously foods. There are some foods that improve blood flow. There are other foods that don't. Another thing we know, I'm pointing to sleep, exercise, the quality of care you give your body. if you're exercising well, remember the story I told you about the older guy who was in his 70s, and all of a sudden he can see small print better because he went upstairs to exercise, and therefore blood flow was improved. So exercise is a surefire way to improve your blood flow. And of course, if you're out with friends and enjoying time on dancing or whatever it is, that's going to improve blood flow as well. We know loneliness can actually reduce blood flow. And of course, if you're doing work that you enjoy, that improves blood flow as well. So we're going to be talking mainly about specific nutrients that you can take that will help to improve blood flow. And for that, I'm going to refer to these three pictures of three gentlemen who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1998. The man in the middle is probably the most famous of them. He's now 80 years old, Professor Louis Ignarro. He's a medical doctor and pharmacologist, clinical or research pharmacologist, who found out that a certain molecule, called nitric oxide, there you see right there, nitric oxide. And this is a book by Dr. Louis Ignarro. They found that every blood vessel, let me go back now, they found that blood vessels produce a gas. Then they didn't know what the gas was, but they called it a factor. That once the blood vessels produce a factor, it opened up their blood vessels and allowed for improved blood flow. So it dilated and it relaxed and allowed blood to flow better through the blood vessels. When the body did not have, or the arteries did not have enough nitric oxide, then, like I said, they didn't know what it was called. Those blood vessels became tight and unyielding, and therefore did not allow blood to flow through like it should. So they found out that the key to a healthy cardiovascular system is if the arteries were producing enough nitric oxide. They later found out that it was nitric oxide. So there's a whole industry now to improve, to find out what it takes to help to release more of nitric oxide. If you can figure this out, ladies and gentlemen, if you can figure out and continually provide your body with the nutrients of the building blocks it requires to boost or to have adequate levels of nitric oxide, you would almost never have problems with your cardiovascular system. That, in my opinion, is the most important aspect of the cardiovascular health. You need to take in nutrients that your body can break up and use to boost nitric oxide production. And so that's what we're going to be talking about now. That we know that certain foods can help to boost nitric oxide. Beets, you've probably heard of, garlic and onions, and foods that contain an amino acid called arginine and citrulline. These are like small amino acids that the body recognizes and uses to break down to make nitric oxide. So L-arginine is what Dr. Louis Ignarro really kind of focuses on. He's like, this is what helps to boost nitric oxide. And he says you need at least 5 grams of arginine taken each day to help your body produce the nitric oxide you need. Now, having said that, let me quickly say that unfortunately, L-arginine on its own is not going to do the trick. You need it in combination with other supplements as well, because when they found out that if you just take L-arginine, the body uses it immediately, and then it doesn't last long. So they found out that to make L-arginine last long, you need like a supporting cast, and supporting cast that not only helps to boost nitric oxide formation, but also helps to make for the healthy blood vessels. And so companies have come up with different formulations that will do just that. I certainly use one. By the way, going back to my examples, my story, when I started taking this formulation for myself, all those episodic pains in my chest and pains in my feet all disappeared. I haven't had them in a long, long time. So I know from a personal experience that this works. You owe it to yourself to ensure that you're doing something on a daily basis that will boost your nitric oxide production. Your doctor probably isn't going to tell you that. Probably your cardiologist probably is going to tell you that, because they don't deal as much with nutrients and nutritional supplementation. And so, and in my opinion, that's tragic. I mean, to be quite frank with you, it's tragic that we're not talking about that, because again, most deaths are because of a faulty cardiovascular system. And if you can get your cardiovascular system to be making enough nitric oxide, a lot of problems will be taken care of. Not everything, obviously, but a lot of problems will be taken care of. So, so we have a supplement that can help with nitric oxide. I'll post it on the platform, so you can actually just order it directly from that link. The foundation has an agreement with the company that produces it, and so they give us a commission. Yes, we will have a commission for if you purchase through that link. All the money goes to the foundation, so we can help with these kids and the research that we're doing. So, since optimal circulation is so important, it is of first importance that we understand what it takes to maintain, improve, and yes, restore it. Once we understand that, and as we mentioned, nitric oxide, it is of first importance that we do, and on a regular basis, at least as frequently as possible, the things that it will take. And that number one thing, again, I mean, it seems like I'm trying to sell something, but I got to tell you, this is so important. We found out that even with sickle cell disease patients, I had a patient who had stroke. She's like 10 years old. She had a stroke, almost completely paralyzed. She lost her twin sister, identical twin sister, to stroke as well. And so the parents were really worried about her. And of course, they're poor. They really couldn't take care of all the medical bills and so on and so forth. So I just took a special interest in her specifically, and we decided to help. We decided to help. We were giving her tons of, stuff worth $500 a month, even more than that on a monthly basis. And we're just giving omega-3s, antioxidants, anti-inflammatories. We're just giving them to them. And there was some marginal improvement, but not much. Then finally, we got this formulation I'm talking about. Remember, this kid has had a stroke, completely dependent on her parents to do everything. And then we decided to give them that formulation that that helps to boost nitric oxide production. And after a month, the father writes to me. I'm here in the US, and he's like, it's almost as if his child has just suddenly, finally come alive. She's all of a sudden laughing, seems completely aware. Her emotional health has improved. It's like a light bulb just came on. And of course, physically too, she was becoming more active and moving her limbs a lot more. And that was because we switched to boosting nitric oxide formation. So back to the brain, back to brain health. It's not just what we now know is that it's not just about improving blood flow, but nitric oxide also helps in the process of stimulating brain function as well. It's not not the only thing that does that, don't get me wrong. But amongst the number one thing it does is it boosts nitric oxide formation. So number one thing nitric oxide does, is to improve blood flow. But it also acts as what is known as a neurotransmitter. So it helps the brain cells communicate better. So it's a double whammy. It helps with blood flow and it helps in brain function. So I think we've answered the question, how to improve blood flow. It's very important that you take in nutrients that can help to improve the production of nitric oxide. Now, that doesn't mean that you should sit down at home and watch TV all day or play cards all day. You still got to move. You still got to exercise yourself. So that's important as well. Back to the brain, the brain. We know that amongst the things that cause dementia and neurodegenerative conditions, women tend to have it worse when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. In fact, women are twice as likely to have Alzheimer's disease than men. And as far as the US is concerned, the United States, women are more likely to have Alzheimer's disease than even breast cancer. So it's a big problem. We know that if you improve nitric oxide formation, that is an important part of helping to improve brain health. And it's all about nutrients like L-arginine. Okay, that's about it for now. I'm going to take, it's about 30 minutes, 10 minutes more than I thought I was going to talk for. So I'm going to take a short break here. Again, we are doing research in Nigeria. So if you would like to support that, this is the information to do so. Text a check to Brain and Body Foundation. So let's open it up for questions. And Jan, are you there?
Taking this off mute.
Cool.
Taking it off mute so they can hear us. So, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, because instead of text the questions to you, can I just go ahead and ask?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, okay. Awesome. My name is Lucia Fournier, and I'm really grateful to be on these Zoom meetings with Charlie, my veteran. And we're in Texas, Mansfield, Texas, close to Fort Worth, Texas. I thank you so much for your time because this is very, very important information. And, I've been practicing this for a while with Charlie, working with the VA, working with WellCare, which is outside the VA. And you're right, they don't, medical doctors, I'm grateful for them, but they also listen to the caregivers. And when I say, hey, he needs a B12 shot and he needs this and this, they automatically do it. And then also I'm really grateful because I found the advantages of getting him into WellCare, getting him with the VA. And then just with my knowledge in the naturopathic or the naturopathic area, I'm not totally against medicines. They work together. And I'll tell you about another element that is phenomenal, wraps all this up to get in the circulation and the cardiovascular and the brain and the neurology, the nerves and all of that. I have a traumatic brain injury, so sometimes I stutter and and a little bit shy. So sorry. Okay. So he's able to get like $700 and something every 3 months to get CVS products. And the products that I'm able to get are like pretty much all of them, but they're not at the quality that I'd like. And with the expenses and so forth, I utilize what we're given to help him maintain. He would be dead right now. And he's doing so wonderful. And I'm educating him on what it is that I'm doing and why these calls and everything. So I summed it all up with that. And I wanted to go into, have you heard of anything like clustered water? It's highly oxygenated or ionized water.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything of that?
I have actually used it before, and when I was playing racquetball, I was amazed at the energy and the clarity it gave me.
Yeah, and the energy and just the detox. And when you're talking about the plaque, and you're talking about the nerve damage, and just the overall like inflammation and improving the blood flow, this totally came to my mind because I know an engineer. He's actually in Glenrose. He's an engineer of this very thing, of this very, the processes, all of this with the water. And it's phenomenal how, first of all, your brain is made up of 90% water and your body 75 to 85%. And so it's very important to have oxygenated water, more oxygen, less pain, more oxygen in your body, less pain, less inflammation, that kind of thing. And so I was like, man, this is like a key component, a key to getting the nitric oxide to where it needs to go. And also the highly oxygenated water detox your body of toxic stuff and that your body doesn't need. So it just improves the overall functioning and flow, blood flow and oxygenation throughout your body system. So I just wanted to add that because it's a big deal. Also, what I really liked, I'm making comments also because they're very important because I've been studying about the water for over 20 years. And I got my hands on it and I almost got killed. That's how I got the traumatic brain injury, because it's when you deal with stuff like this, it just seems like warfare happens big time. I also want to say that the words you speak in prayer, like speaking life over your body, has a lot to do with the way you can command your body with words and prayer. And that to me is a very big deal. I speak life in him. I speak life over my family. I speak life over this healing ministry that you have and over in Nigeria and everything that you're doing. I do speak life. So I just want you to know you have a lot of prayer support, and with what you're doing is prospering and it will succeed. I want you to know that. So you're welcome. I think it's very important to have the knowledge of your body. Knowledge is power. It is powerful, and the means to get what you need. So coming through the information that you're given is very, very important, and it's very needed. So I just wanted to tell you that as well. So I do have a lot of questions. I just haven't got them totally in a perspective. And when I bring this, my notes and stuff to Eric and several others, and I finally get them on the Zoom calls, they'll be asking more questions for you. I just wanted to say thank you so much for what you bring in this, because it's very important, especially for nerve damage in your brain, which is what I'm getting through and getting familiar with. And would you agree that the water, the highly oxygenated water, is important for all this to happen in your body, for a quickening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm in a friend's place. I've heard about clustered water and all that. Let me just admit here that I always look at things that can be available in remote areas in Africa. I was raised in Africa. And so anything that is only found in the US or hard to get, I like it. It's good and all that, but I always think in terms of what is the most basic thing and what can be available in as many countries as possible. So I agree with you. Clustered water is good, but it's not what you can find anywhere. It's not available. So if you can get it, that's great. If most of us can't, for those on the call too, if you can get close to water, I strongly encourage it, because like you said, it helps to improve blood, the oxygenation, and the more oxygen your cells have, the more quickly they will recover and succeed.
Okay. I think I'll stay with with that particular question. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Let's see if any more questions. Anybody else with ask questions?
No, I've been listening to her rattle and all that. And she does good at that too. But you got a very, very good little show and everything here, and I like it. And I imagine I'll probably rattle with you later on.
Thank you for participating.
Well,
thank you for your service.
There you go.
Yours. Wow, I'll be getting more people on this, so it's good to know. So when you see some new people register in, I think that's how that works, then you'll know that, well, a lot of them came from me because it's just a matter of getting it organized and getting it available. And so we're hoping to get more people that really need to hear what you have to say and support this that you're doing. The Brain and Body Foundation, there's a lot of, you'll be seeing a lot more veterans and supporting this.
Oh, yeah.
Supporting what you do. So I just wanted to give you some looking forward to this because it's very important. It's very vital, actually, if I could say that, vital to our whole world, So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to make a comment here, David. Thank you very much for your drawing.
Yeah,
to me that means a lot. I asked David to draw on a whiteboard or draw on something, and he did that. The whole was just really made me realize what vessels are and stuff much more than the other slides and stuff. So thank you, David. And I want to thank you for being on today. I'm driving for 3 days, and Carol, welcome to you too. And I don't know yet what the next topic will be, but gut health possibly, or we'll see what David comes up with. But we'll try to get it out earlier, and then we'll try to get the links.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, I've put the link for the web. If you want to get the what you call it now, the arginine booster is right there in the chat box. So if you do want to get access to it, if you're in Yuma and you get it, we can always find and get it for you at a cheaper rate. What's up, John? Is anybody hearing what Jan is saying?
I can't hear you at all, David. You're just really mumbled.
Well, I couldn't hear you at all either. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. Well, there must be something wrong with the internet. I'll tell you what. We just you can check your chat box. I guess we've finished for tonight. If you have any questions, you can just send us the email, whatever it is. And then next week, like Jan said, we will get the information out to you earlier. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. And
thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Alrighty. Bye-bye.